You see what I see?
I see the sun. That's something I see.
Yeah. Definitely brighter.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the only change.
Maybe some more cars. Maybe
a very traffic road.
Oh, yeah.
Overlooking from an undisclosed location.
Is that water?
Yeah.
Oh, a large body of water.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is a corner penthouse.
Is it? Is it a pillar? Can they see that? Can they see the pillar?
Maybe we can show them the pillar.
Eventually
when we get the 5th camera angle.
Right.
Coming soon.
Yeah. So I don't know if you all have noticed, but we might have gotten a new place, new place for the podcast. And please leave a comment and tell us if you like it, hate it, all that stuff. But from our perspective,
it's pretty nice.
It's not too shabby, if I do say so myself, Yeah, life is good. But why life is good, Jose?
Why is that, Austin?
Because when we faced obstacles and we thought that we exhausted all of our options and tried everything, we didn't say, hey, look, let's stop. We did all we could do. We said, okay. We thought all the ways that we could handle this. We tried to do it this way. It didn't work. Let's get more creative. And in that creativity sparked success. Now, most people, when they see challenges and when they encounter things that are difficult, they like to get frustrated. They like to curse. They like to lash out, as we've recently experienced.
And we will tell you the story.
Exactly.
It's a good story.
But when you face these things, in spite of all those feelings that you may face, you have to get creative and say, hey, look, I didn't try everything. Let's try this. Let's try something else. Let's try that. So, Jose, can you please give our listeners and viewers a recap of what we experienced just yesterday, might I add, about this specific topic?
And this is actually a very fun story, I would say. So yesterday we were moving into this new location of ours, and being the stubborn men that Austin and I are, we decided to move our own stuff. There was a group of gentlemen who worked for a moving company, and they were also helping other individuals move. And one of the guys, there were 2 guys. One of them was a gentleman. He was an absolute savant. He was asking if we needed equipment, tools, assistance, and, we politely declined. While the other one was, for lack of a better word, a less than average performing individual. Now, this less than average performing individual, we'll call him Bob.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Bob had an attitude. So we had to share a freight elevator, long story short. And for some reason, the freight elevator was not working according to Bob. And Bob had an attitude about it, saying, oh, I need to get my things out. Why are y'all loading the elevator? It is not working. Well, Bob, what have you tried? I've tried everything. It does not work. In 1 second, I diagnosed the problem and I fixed it.
And he's not being hyperbolic. He literally did it in about 1 to 2 seconds.
And Austin, what was his response after I fixed the problem?
His response was like, no, don't you do that. Because no, don't do that. Blah, 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 blah. Like he was just saying a whole bunch of defensive stuff because he realized that he didn't try as many things as he should have tried. And, it was a shot to the ego. Definitely a big shot to the ego. And then as we were, we had our stuff on the elevator about to go up, the door was closing automatically. And as the door was closed, we could still hear him yelling outside to us and, upset about the situation. And over such a simple solution.
Such a trivial matter. He was ready to fight. He was upset. He was literally ready to throw hands with Austin and I, while we have the calmest and coolest demeanor that simply says, you're an idiot. without even having to say the words.
And we were trying to de-escalate the situation, might add. And just for clarification, if he did try to do anything, it probably would not have gone very well for him. I'll just leave it at that.
There would be no problem with us.
So that was something that we encountered recently, of noticing that people really think that they're giving it their best shot. And in that situation, he realized how his best shot wasn't our best shot. It wasn't even our, least shot, to be honest with you. And it was like that because we have experienced a myriad of problems. And I think through this, journey of entrepreneurship and owning a business, you get very good at solving problems, and a very wide array of problems, ranging from something simple like unjamming a button, or something difficult like understanding the supply chain of another country or a business in another country. Multiple countries.
Business supply chains.
Yeah, multiple countries. So when we experience something like this, it really puts into perspective that we know that there are many ways to skin a cat, per se. You can do things a lot of different ways and get very many different outcomes. And that is something that most people don't really think of, because when they go outside, they have a set kind of criteria in their mind for how they think things should go. And once that criteria is not met, they automatically assume, okay, I can't do anything else. I gave it my all. That's all I can do. There's no more boxes to check. I don't see any boxes left on my sheet of paper. But who said that sheet of paper was the end all be all? And we realized along the way that it's really fuck that sheet of paper, because the boxes that the world gives you to check, or that you give yourself to check, that's not how the world operates in reality. So when we're progressing through things, we realize that whether you succeed or fail is usually handicapped by your own perceived limitations of yourself and the things that we interact with. So you walk out the door and you might automatically assume that you can't run a mile in under 6 minutes or something like that. You might think that for yourself. So that's a box that you don't even have on your sheet of paper that you can do. However, then you see someone else come and do it relatively easily. And you're like, okay, so maybe it's not impossible. Maybe I do have this thing that I could potentially do. And most people don't realize that you yourself are the one who is hurting yourself the most by limiting yourself in what you can actually do and the ways that you can actually solve a problem. Because again, there's multiple ways to skin a cat. And just because the way that you originally would do it, or the way that you're more comfortable doing it, didn't work, doesn't mean that it's the end all be all. I like to think that you really rarely see an end all be all situation in general, because in my opinion, there's millions, billions, trillions of ways to do something. So just because your 2 ways that you tried, that you like, that you feel comfortable in trying didn't work, doesn't mean it can never work. No, it means that you just tried 2 things and that didn't work. So now get creative and do something else.
What I think an interesting takeaway from this point, well, from the story, is also that it's understandable for you to get upset that where you expect yourself to be, or where you believe yourself to be, doesn't truly align with the reality that you live. And it's understandable and reasonable to be upset. However, your inability to control your emotions and your actions have very real consequences that pan out in not so great of a way. And I'll give you the details on how this altercation ended. Austin de-escalated. Tried to. And he, again, lashed out. So, being professionals, we decided not to give him an old-fashioned beatdown. And we took it up directly with management. Now, let me paint a picture for you. 30 seconds has lost you your job. 30 seconds has lost you your income. 30 seconds has lost you the ability to pay for everything that you live. That might be your apartment, your mortgage, your food. 30 seconds has lost you your girlfriend or your wife, your car, your current upward trend, if that's the case. 30 seconds of an inability to control yourself, your actions, and your emotions outwardly has cost you way more than you could even imagine. How can you live that way? Now, make that mistake once, shame on you. Make that mistake twice, you deserve the outcome. Make the mistake 3 times and you're never going to change. And the reason I bring this up is because I totally get being upset. I totally get upset. I totally understand being upset at your inability to perform or how reality is different from your perception. And I get it. But you have to be an adult. You have to be a man. You have to be a professional. You have to be a woman. You have to control your actions. The thoughts and the emotions are going to run wild, and that's okay. But you are the one who dictates what happens in your immediate surroundings. Hey, you're right. I made a mistake. Thank you for finding the solution. Now, can we carry on?
And you know what that is right there that you just said, that you just, reiterated and displayed? That is called accountability. Oh,
Big word.
scary word for some people, actually for most people out there.
Could you define accountability for us?
And they always
In
give
Austin definition.
There we go. Exactly. In Austin definition, it's owning up to your bullshit. So everybody knows that, unless you just are a complete narcissist, that we're not perfect. We know that we're not perfect. So when you do something wrong, in order to progress in life in general, I think the key, or one of the keys, is to be accountable for when you are the reason for things fucking up. That whole lashing out experience, to me, really just showed me that he wasn't angry at us as much as he was angry at himself for not being able to figure out such a complex or not complex situation that was getting on his nerves clearly, to the point that where he had an attitude with 2 random people that were being cordial and nice to him until, that point, or even up to that point and past. So most people have to realize that if you want to progress, that you have to be accountable for everything. Yes, you get the situations where you're accountable for when things go right. That's great. But more often than not, you're probably going to have to be accountable for when things go wrong. And you're going to have to take that on the chin. Most people have a problem with taking that shit on the chin because it's, again, an ego thing. And we talked about this before in our previous podcast about ego being the enemy. In that case, it's a very big issue because your ego is so large to the point to where you're not willing to admit that you're the reason for why something failed or it didn't work. And if you don't admit that, and you're running a company, you have thousands of people that you employ, you're running that shit into the ground. Because if you're not willing to take accountability and say, I messed up, I'm going to do better, one, you're not going to lead the company in the right direction. 2, you're also not going to be able to inspire the people to follow you, because if everyone under you knows that it's your fault and you're not taking accountability, then they're not going to see you as a competent leader and a trustworthy leader because you're throwing the accountability off on someone else. And just 3, it just makes you, honestly, a less of a man, woman, whatever, when you don't take accountability for shit. Because the only person that's living your life is you. So if you're blaming everything that's happening to you on everyone else, you have no control on your life. No control whatsoever. However, when you say, hey, look, I'm the reason why this shit didn't work, whether it's truly your fault or not, you take some control back. And what you do with that control can be ridiculous, because even such a small amount of control and saying, hey, I'm the reason why this didn't work or worked, allows you to do great things. But when you're saying, hey, this is that person's fault, this is her fault, this is their fault, you have no control over anything, and you're really at the whim of the world, universe, or whatever higher power that you believe in. So,
and I think the best way that you can handle any of these situations is disassociating from the actual event, the actual moment.
I like that word.
Yes. Austin, the king of disassociation, the master disassociator, with a dissertation in disassociation from the association of disassociating.
Ooh, yeah. I like
Disassociationception.
There we go. I like that.
Interception. Now, did you try everything?
Did I?
When you are doing routine maintenance on any aircraft, you have a checklist. When you're starting an aircraft, you have a pre-flight and in-flight checklist and post-flight checklist. Why do you think that the most mundane and routine tasks have a checklist?
Are you really asking me? So that you can, follow the guidelines of making sure the thing operates how it's supposed to operate.
And so you don't miss
do
right, and so you don't miss anything.
Right.
Because oftentimes when you go on autopilot, there's a potential that you skip a step or two just simply because you forget. And when you actually outline all the details behind something, you get a full picture of what it looks like. And from there, you can develop a strategy and you begin to see where the flaws and the gaps are. Without writing it down and creating a checklist for whatever scenario, that no matter how simple it is, you can very easily overlook simple variables because you don't have an overall disassociated third-person perspective of the circumstance, the situation, or the task at hand. Now, the reason I bring this up is because in a situation, it's very likely that you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're consumed, and you're very, very in tune with what's going on. If you have the capacity to disassociate, you can likely see what is actually going on. You're reducing the input of your emotions and increasing the input of logic and reason, which is almost always the best possible scenario that you can have. That being said, also, you say, okay, what have I tried? XYZ. All right, what's happening? This is happening. What are the potentials that this is happening and why? XYZ. Cool. Have I tried XYZ? I did X and Z, but I have not tried Y. Let me try Y. Bam, it works. Or it doesn't. And then you continue troubleshooting. When you program, you have to check every single component line by line. You have to compile, recompile, and you have to reread and reread and reread until you find the problem. If you just go, oh, perhaps it's here, perhaps it's here, perhaps it's here, perhaps it's here, you don't have a strategy, you don't have a system, you're never going to get from point A to point B effectively, unless you're just naturally gifted and you're very intuitive when it comes to solving problems. But for the vast majority of us, that's not the case.
And you know what I found funny about that reference that you just said?
The programming reference?
Exactly. Just like the elevator situation, oddly enough, most of the things that we think are so complex and are huge problems normally have a simple, small ass thing that you just didn't realize you missed that is the solution to your problem.
Because we're human.
Exactly. And we experienced this from the dawn of time. To even take it back a little bit, whenever a TV might not be working in the old days, when you had the back on the TV, you youngsters might not know about that. You had the back on the TV. You might unplug the TV. You might turn it on with the remote or whatnot, change the channels, all that stuff. It's still not work. But sometimes all it takes is starts working again.
Do you want to tell them about the clock that I had on my first car?
Yes. So, old car, old RAV4, shout out to RAV4. We're going to get that back when we get rich,
Yes.
And
I know who has it, so we're going to buy it back from me and my brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the clock was messed up on that. The time wasn't always accurate. And sometimes we tried a lot of things, but sometimes it really just took a good
a shit. And it was a digital clock, so sometimes you couldn't see. It would just shut off.
Right.
It was still running, but you couldn't see. The display wouldn't work.
Right. You pop it and it starts working.
So I would hit the dash, and then I would push the display, and it would just kind of
Exactly.
like fade in.
Exactly. And just going back to the coding reference, you could be recompiling and going over your code over and over again. It's like, man, I know I did this right. I use a for loop and I have the nested loop in here, and I know I did it the correct way. And then you go back and you realize I missed a semicolon.
Always the fucking semicolon.
I missed a damn semicolon. I missed a semicolon.
And it's on some bullshit line.
Exactly. It doesn't even matter that much. So things like that. And just like the elevator situation, the button was jammed.
Literally, the button to open the door was jammed, which means the door wouldn't close because the open door button was not released. It was continuously pressed.
That's all it took. And I think this is a great example of, too, is sometimes we overcomplicate things in our own life for trying to resolve a problem and trying everything.
And for what?
We think that we have to go all the way to X, Y, and Z, when really we skipped A. You didn't even try A or B.
There's a whole 34 other letters in the alphabet. Sorry, X, Y, Z, 36, 33.
Huh?
How many letters in the alphabet?
Wait, hold on.
It's 36.
Now you got me. No. Now you got me fucked up. Because I honestly, I don't think so. Hold on.
I'm standing on it.
Hold on. 26, bro.
26. 23.
I was like, bro.
I added 10. I added 10. Listen.
He hasn't gotten sleep in like the last
3 days. But listen. Do you see me going, oh my gosh, don't talk to me, bro. You don't want to mess with me. You think you're better than me?
Fault.
Oh. 30 seconds to lose my whole fucking career and everything. There's a quote from Warren Buffett.
What's the quote?
It takes 20 years to build your reputation, but it takes 20 seconds to ruin it.
20 years you work for something. And in 20 seconds.
For a fucking button.
For a button.
For a button, you lose everything you've worked for your entire life.
It's crazy.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? So when you're trying to solve something, you think that you've tried everything. Sometimes try something simple. Start with the basics. Because if you're trying to solve a quadratic equation, you might want to know how to add 1 + 1 first.
That is definitely going to help you.
Yeah. You might want to know how to multiply a little bit. You might want to know the basics of division, So start with the basics. Don't forget ABC before you go to X, Y, and Z. And most of the times when we are doing something that we think is a very difficult thing or something that we've tried over and over again and it's just not worked, we think that we have to overcomplicate the answer. More often than not, even with business, it's normally the simplest things that end up working. Just something simple. What do people like? Simple.
Well, and we'll add the quote from, or the mantra we'll say from the Navy SEALs. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
There you go.
And oftentimes something that's slow is something small and menial. Like I run a mile every morning. I do 200 push-ups every morning. I do 200 sit-ups every morning. And then by the end of the year, you have an absolutely shredded chest and you have absolutely peeled abs. So small and so insignificant in the grand scheme of things. But when multiplied across a long enough time span, it's exponential growth.
Right. It's not a keto diet plus this diet plus I have to do fucking. You know the reference that I'm about to use from somebody that we saw. I'm not gonna do it because I don't want to be too petty. It was a large quantity of one particular exercise over a span of a couple hours.
1,000 burpees. It took us 3 hours, and we got so tired and so exhausted. That's cool. That's really cool. I'm amazed that you did 1,000 burpees in a day, but you could also do 1,000 burpees in a week and then do it every single week. So it took you 1 day in 1 month to do 1,000 burpees. But if you do 1,000 burpees every single week, you've done 4,000 burpees in a month. I don't know about you, but 4,000 to 1.
It's a kind of big difference.
If you make $1,000 every single month, and I make $4,000 every single month, By the end of the year, you've made $12,000 and I've made $48,000.
Whatever you're making, you know that 4 times whatever you're making is a large difference.
And you can do a lot with 4 times the amount of money. Good, bad, whatever you want to do, doesn't matter. You have 4 times the amount of money.
Because let's say for apartments, for instance, you have to have 3 times the income normally for them to want to, rent you out that apartment. If you have 4 times your normal income, that can take you from living in a shit shack to this humble abode. You know what I'm saying? So, sometimes it's really all about not trying to overcomplicate shit and make shit look too grandiose and too, I'm gonna do this large amount of thing and then never do it again. Or you could do the same thing every day for a year, like Jose said, and then you look better, have better results, and are doing better than that person that did that one thing that one day, that one time.
The only thing you have to do is go back to basics. The basics always work. Mm-hmm. And we talk about this all the time. When people don't see results, what do? They change the entire process, or they attempt to change the process. This diet didn't work in a month, so I'm switching to this diet. This diet didn't work in a week, so I'm giving up on all diets. This exercise isn't helping me grow, so I'm going to switch it and add another one. Why? Why not just optimize that one thing, and then until you're absolutely and entirely certain that it will not work for you, then you start changing things.
And you've shown this to me through certain workouts where I used to think that I couldn't do something or not do something as well. And then Jose was like, okay, let's get back to basics. Let's look at your technique. Let's look at your form. How are you doing this exercise? Are you doing this correctly so that you can maximize all the muscles that you need to maximize in order to lift this weight properly and lift it to your fullest capabilities? You start from the basics, then look, I'm going from doing this weight to now doing, this weight, because of starting from the basics and realize, okay, it's all in the foundation and fundamentals of something. And then once you get that correct, then we can worry about the other shit. You can't go out like these kids nowadays and say, hey, I want to be Steph Curry and go out and try to shoot a 3 as your first thing when you don't even know how to make a layup. How are you going to go out and try to fucking practice threes or go shoot a 3 in the game when you haven't even practiced how to shoot a layup or a inside shot that's, not that far away? Because you have to perfect the technique in the first place in order to shoot that 3 to where you shoot it so consistently like someone like a Steph Curry.
And we have experience with this when it comes to business as well. Anybody who's ever had a business understands that marketing is not simple. Marketing for your own business is difficult because you think, my company is so amazing, you should buy from it. And if you don't, you're a complete nincompoop and idiot.
I see it. How can they not see it?
And we're guilty of this.
Oh, for sure.
We are guilty of this. We've done this in the past. And sometimes we catch ourselves doing it even now. But the example I really want to give you is when we first started running our email drip campaign, we thought it was good. And so we scaled it and automated it. And when a friend of mine, a brother of mine, evaluated my emails, he said, Jose, you're literally just crap shooting. You're shooting crap at an exponential level, and you're wasting time, money, energy, and resources. And he said, make these changes here, and boom. A good open rate on an email is roughly 24% on marketing emails. We were hitting north of the ballpark of 60 to 70% opens, which is approximately 3 to 3.5 times higher than what is considered a good number. All because of micro changes, not major changes. We didn't say, forget emails, we're going to make phone calls. No, we made small incremental changes and split tested everything until we were getting better numbers. It's very simple. It takes time. It's a process. It's not fun. It's arduous. It's grueling. Yeah. Jesus Christ. But at the end of the day, it all pays off. And even if you fail, you have data now that supports the direction that you should be headed.
Exactly. Because when you say, did you try everything? The main thing that can tell you if you really tried everything and if you actually have something good for yourself is the results. Sorry. So if you have something that you think is such a great product, are you getting shit results? All right, then probably it's not that great, or what you're doing is not that great. So you're gonna have to change something. We live in a world where things are based off of numbers. You have access to large amounts of data everywhere that you turn around. So if the data is not backing up that you actually have something good going for yourself, then maybe you have to look within and say, hey, look, did I really optimize my product how I did? Did I really try everything that I wanted to try? And if the results aren't backing your assumption of your company and what you think of it, or your product and what you think of it, then it's time to change. And we've done that multiple times. We've pivoted multiple times because we realize, hey, look, we think this is so grand. We think this is so great, revolutionary, but the numbers aren't backing it up. And we can beat our head. Huh?
And you're biased.
Yeah, for sure you're biased.
You need a third-person perspective. Multiple third-person perspectives.
Multiple. Because if you're left to your own devices, you will sit and bang your head against the wall continuously thinking that you have the best thing since sliced bread. But sorry, most of the times you do not. And we had to realize that. And we're two stubborn individuals. And we had to realize that ourselves. People didn't necessarily have to come and tell us. Even when they did come and tell us, we would listen for a little bit, then started banging our heads against the wall again. But then we finally listened. So this is really the whole reason we have this podcast. So people like you who are our age or not our age or whatever, who are on the same path or not on the same path, can realize that we went through the tough times for you, so that we're trying to give you a shortcut. Well, not kind of. So you can
Spark notes.
You know what I'm saying?
You still have to do the work.
You still have to do the work. But now you realize that the roadblock is there. You know that you still have to go on that journey. You still have to travel that path. But now you know, okay, once you get to this point, this is going to happen. Once you get to that point, a fucking coyote is going to attack you. Once you get to that point, there's a trap right there. Because when you have these spark notes from people like us who have actually done it, it expedites the process if you listen. Because we had plenty of mentors tell us, who are older than us, who experience more life than us, hey, this is what you should do. You should listen to me because, you know, I've been through it. And as you're younger, you probably didn't do it. But the one thing that I feel like separates us from most people is that at a certain point in time, at a relatively young age, we said, man, this shit that I'm trying is not working and I don't like it. So you know what? Let me listen to these old people.
Why are you going to reinvent the wheel?
Exactly.
Your network is your net worth, so why not expand your network? And why not rely on the network that you have?
And don't think about reinventing, or if you're just, you know, the next Elon, maybe, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel from the get-go. You can know how the wheel works, make the wheel, and then after that, tweak it. Don't try to tweak the shit at the beginning and make your own shit at the beginning. Utilize what works. Then once you see that it works for you, then you can optimize. Once you have that traffic and flow of income, views, what have you, to base your stuff off of, and then you can optimize and tweak it and do all the excess stuff. Don't go into it thinking that you can do that and reinvent the wheel and be the best thing since sliced bread, because more often than not, again, that's not going to happen. So, hey, I think we gave you a great episode. This has been a very fun episode. This is our first episode here at this brand new, lovely location. Honestly, this is really just foreshadowing for, you know, the leaps and bounds that we've taken, what we will take in the future, always to give you all a great podcast and always optimize the podcast, whether it mean, you know, increasing the technology or literally changing location and how much we spend on the location in order to give you a greater podcast. We are dedicated to this. We're dedicated to you. And this is what we do.
Hey, we take ourselves very seriously. We take what we do very seriously. We want to provide y'all the best quality that we can always, and then some. And this is just a testament to how we operate.
Yes, sir.
And we won't stop. We can't stop, and we will never slow down. We'll only improve and speed up.
Damn right.
The AM Club Podcast.
Signing out.
Mic check. The AM Club Podcast.